In de studio vanavond hebben we Pete Townshend zelf. Pete, you've just finished your project, I guess we would call it, White City. Why don't you tell us what the project is about?
It's a story which I felt the need to tell with both an album and a videotape. So I've done a 40-minute video film and a regular record album, but the two things exist together. The story is about a couple who live on a housing estate in London which is called the White City. It's a real estate and it's close to where I grew up and close to, well, it is in Shepherd's Bush, which is the place where The Who first began. And I went back to look at it last year and I suddenly realised things had changed a lot from when I was young. And it seemed that what people were achieving there was very different. There were a kind of different set of values. And I wanted to write about that.
That's the main reason that you wrote the album and did the movie, or the personal reasons?
Yeah, it was when The Who finished, I started to look around for, I started to sort of, well, what am I? Where am I? And I suddenly, I started a job as a book publisher, and suddenly realised that I was a father of two teenagers, and all those kind of things started to come down. And I started to look around for roots, I suppose, to try and find my roots. And I went back to the area where I grew up and started to look around there.
You play a role in the movie yourself. What role is that?
I play somebody who is actually is based on me. I just changed the name slightly. I called myself Pete Fountain.
There's a lot about your mother in the movie, I believe. Isn't that true?
There's a lot about a mother. The hero of the film, the anti-hero of the film, Jim, is supposed to be very much like Jimmy in the story of Quadrophenia, which was an earlier Who project. And he's grown up and he's been married and separated and lives on the estate, but he was brought up in a pub, and his mother spent a hell of a lot of time entertaining the customers, and as such he feels that he's been very neglected. And I think there were elements of my own childhood in that. Both my parents were musicians, and I felt that when they were out on the road touring and playing and stuff like that, that I'd been slightly neglected. It's very strange because I went on to do exactly the same thing to my kids.
Do they feel neglected?
Not now. No, I'm sure they're pretty bored with the amount of time that I'm sitting on top of them, looking at my clock, saying you should have been in half an hour ago. Yeah, I suppose they were slightly because the first 20 years of The Who, we spent in America. Yeah. We concentrated very much on America.
You keep bringing The Who up, of course, an unavoidable question. Now we all know that you played at Live Aid. What's going to happen to The Who? Will anything happen with them again?
I don't think so. I think maybe if we did Live Aid this time because Bob Geldof talked us into it. He's very good at that.
Did you like doing that?
Yeah, I did. Not because of playing with The Who, because I could live without that. I can live without that. I enjoyed being with the band very much, but I'm glad to be working on my own now. But it was great because it was such a good... It felt like we had some power, And it was great because it wasn't just bands like The Who and older bands, it was a lot of younger bands together. It was all of us together in the pop music industry, and suddenly we felt we had power, we could do something. And for years and years in the early days of rock, there was a lot of this going on and a lot of complaining, but we didn't actually really change very much, except perhaps the way people looked and the way people thought and possibly the way that they addressed themselves to their parents and things. But this was different. And I think you see it with the Sun City record, you see it with Farm Aid in America, you see it with all kinds of things where musicians now are really delighting in their very real power.
Are you looking for the same kind of power that you had with The Who?
As an individual?
Yeah.
No, I'm doing purely what I want to do, making the music that I want to do and telling the stories that I want to tell. And I don't really need to go through the kind of period of angst that The Who went through. It took us about 5 years to break the States and to become well known in Europe. And it was a very hard period, but it had its rewards, and so I don't really need to go through that again. I'm quite content doing what I'm doing now.
And what are the big future plans? I love this question.
So do I. I'm hoping to go on and make more films because I've enjoyed making this one. Certainly, I'll continue to play music, but I'm going to write a book. I wrote a book called Horse's Neck, which is a collection of short stories, and I enjoyed doing that very much. I didn't think I would enjoy it because obviously it doesn't. You know, when you write a book, it doesn't sell millions of records. It doesn't sell millions of copies like a record does. But it seems to connect. It seems to have more penetration. You know, for some, music is great for communicating, uplift, and entertaining. But I think the rules of music have changed a hell of a lot. You know, in the 60s and 70s, music was there to carry a message. And nowadays, I don't think people want music to carry so much of a message because the fact that you don't need the message because you know what's wrong with the world. And it's you have to live with that. You know, you turn on the TV and you know that the tropical rainforests are being cut down. You know that there's a nuclear bomb hanging over your head. You know about apartheid. You know about people starving in Ethiopia. You don't need music to carry those messages. What you want your music to be is fun and release. And me being the serious soul that I am, I do find that it's better for me to put that kind of seriousness, if you like, into maybe into film or into writing books, and try and make the music slightly lighter, and because that's the kind of thing I'm going to be competing with, you know.
Okay, well, I hope you have a lot of fun with whatever you're going to do, especially in your music, and I'd like to thank you very much for being here. Okay, bye-bye.
Hi, this is Tina Turner, and you're watching Europe's #1 rock show, Countdown.